Welcome back to the Artifact Challenge Guides. Today I'm looking at the Havoc Demon Hunter, and Xylem is the challenge for this one. It's reasonably challenging, so you need to make sure you're prepared as you go in here. So we'll start off by looking at the talents required. There's actually two sets of talents used for this because you can change talents in between the first and second phase. So I'll bring these both up on the screen and I'll describe what you do with each set. So in the first phase, we use a demonic style build. We have our Blind Fury, our Demonic Appetite. I'm using Bloodlet because I have the bracers. If you don't have the bracers, you can go with First Blood. Soul Rending, mandatory. Fell Eruption over Nemesis. Nemesis has reduced duration in the first phase. It acts like a PvP target, so it's pretty useless. And Fell Eruption gives you an extra stun to help you reduce the damage intake, which is pretty good. I have Master of the Glaive because I haven't the bracers. If you don't have them, you can go Unleash Power. Demon Reborn isn't very useful. And final one's Demonic, just so you have that extra leech in meta form all the time. In the second phase, I go with a more traditional Chaos Blades type. The first row, Fell Blades, pretty standard. Demon Blades, fairly standard. I have Bloodlet again because of the bracers. Even if you don't have the bracers, I would still recommend choosing Bloodlet, as there's some 3-target cleave to do, so it's a pretty good talent to have. I picked Desperate Instincts over Soul Rending. The reason I did this is because I was having some trouble surviving in between the waves of adds. As you kill the adds, you can take the souls from them to heal up, and your meta uptime is pretty low anyway, so I found that Soul Rending wasn't really doing anything for me, and Desperate Instincts was giving me that tiny edge to help survive in between those waves. Nemesis works as expected in this phase, so we're back to taking that. Master of the Glaive. Again, I have this because of the bracers. It's probably the best choice in this phase regardless. And then Chaos Blades for the final talent, just to get that extra burst DPS. So, contrary to my usual style of guides, I'm going to go with a more play-by-play approach on this one. I'll play through the whole footage of my successful kill attempt, and I'll give some tips on what I was doing at particular times, rather than it being heavily edited, because I think there's some specific timings in this fight that matter quite a lot, so I can pinpoint those, and I can just briefly describe what's going on at any given time. So the fight takes place here in the Eye of Eternity. You can see I've just buffed up all the consumables available. I have a rune, I have food, I have flask. At the start of the fight, you want to interrupt him, pull him towards the middle of the room. This is a pretty good thing to do in all phases, but it's not very easy to do. You can see I'm holding on to meta here, and I'm not using my eye beam until he does this Razor Ice ability. When you get in that, you just want to use your stun to stun them all, and that fires out lots of souls because of the trait. At that point, you want to wait for the global cooldown to end, and then double jump over the ice and dash to get out of it. You then interrupt the boss, pull him back into position, and at this point you can eye beam on all the ice, and that gets you just your leech going again, and it drops a lot of souls out of the ice. It's a pretty slow method, you don't get a lot of DPS in this phase because you spend a lot of time eye beaming ice, but it's very safe, and you just make sure that you have eye beam up every time, as you got all these excess souls just because you can take down a lot of that ice with your eye beam. In between this, you're just interrupting the boss to pull him close. You can use your Fell Eruption stun, and you just repeat here. It's a pretty cyclical phase. Continue going through and through. He'll do this maybe 4 or 5 times. Every time just handle it the same way. You don't really have to kill all of the ice, you just need enough to get the souls to recharge your eye beam. So you can ignore the remaining parts, and if you're short a few souls, you just jump in there, collect them up, and then you can get back out again. You want to make sure you're not standing on side one of the purple lasers when he does the ice, as the laser can push you into it. So this phase is the mirror phase. You can see I ended that really quickly. The point there is to find him, and to just stand on him, and you can pretty much do that by identifying where he is via the minimap. If you started near the middle of the room, then you can just double dash and you can reach him easily. I go into the Archaean Phase here, and at this point I pop Metamorphosis, just to help me heal up because he does a lot of damage in this phase. He likes to teleport away from you here. You can just dash to reach him again, throw some glaives while you get into range of him. You don't want to interrupt the Arcane Barrage, as he has an ability called Draw Power. You want to interrupt that immediately because as he casts, he gains stacks of a damage increasing buff, and even 1 stack of this actually adds a lot of damage. So as he cycles between phases, he goes into this mirror phase, so in preparation for that you want to move yourself to the middle of the room. What this accomplishes is it lets you just approach him from whichever direction he might teleport to. If you're on one side and he teleports to the other side, you can't actually get to him with the Fel Rush in time, and you have to do the phase in the more traditional manner, which is much more difficult. The traditional manner of doing that phase involves killing adds one by one and standing inside the protected bubbles they leave behind, but there's honestly no reason at all to do this as Demon Hunter, as you can just cheese this phase with the double Fel Rush. All you have to do is make sure your timers are correct, and you anticipate when the phases are changing and when you have to get to the middle of the room. You can see on that ice I had some bad luck. All the souls landed inside the original ice, so I had to kill a few extras. DPS in this point isn't very important, so I'm playing it extra safe. I'm actually backtracking onto the ice just to I-beam it, collecting up all the extra souls, and then trying to get back onto the boss. Honestly, during the Frost phase, I really don't do very much DPS to him. I'm sure there are better methods of doing this, but I was going for an extra safe approach, and there's definitely room for improvement in what I did here. I was perhaps just a bit too cautious, but I mean, it worked for me. There was no rush to finish this phase, so it just makes the whole fight take a little bit longer. You have to exercise all the mechanics a little bit more and a little bit better. But overall, it's pretty okay. You just absolutely want to make sure you have enough souls picked up to refresh your Chaos Nova and your I-Beam. So you can see my DBM warns me of the phase change. I get to the middle, I immediately identify him on the minimap, and I double dash over, and that ends the phase instantly. You want to try and do this every time. It's very important that you get this, because doing the phase in the standard method is really not very helpful. So this is one of the harder points of the fight coming up here. I'm in the Archaean Phase again, but I have no Metamorphosis up, which means it's pretty difficult to stay alive. You want to be tactical about when you pick up your souls, and you want to try and just make sure that when you pick them up, you can actually make use of the healing effect they provide. When he teleports away, you want to pop your blur, just get damage reduction up when you get back to him. Increases your movement speed as well, which is pretty handy. And you can make use of Imprison and Fel Eruption just to delay his cast as much as possible until you get your I-Beam back. And when you get that back, you can pop that and you can start leeching your HP back. Just make sure you aren't popping it when he's about to do draw power, as you need to be able to interrupt on a dime and make sure he can't get any of those stacks. On the phase change again, get to the middle. You can see I had a little bit of issue there, I got stuck inside the focusing iris. But because I was in the middle just on time, it was still fine anyway with just one dash. Dodging this Shadow Barrage, very simple mechanic, however you might find a lot of your wipes are due to getting hit by this, as it sometimes catches you off guard, just something to watch out for. In this Frost phase, I just delay him until I get back to the ice, just using Fel Eruption and Interrupt. Deal with this ice in the same way as before. I just want to stun them, jump out for extra souls, and then I-Beam, and refresh my I-Beam instantly by picking up all those souls again. Get back on the boss, you can sometimes get a few hits in. If you're lucky, you can get one Annihilate in just to leech back up before your Metamorphosis ends. If not, you'll be a little bit lower in HP, but it's not really a huge deal, provided that you can interrupt him a bit and just make use of Imprison and Fel Eruption again to delay those casts as much as possible. It's actually pretty good when he does this Shadow Barrage, as he's not doing any direct damage to you, and you can generate a few extra souls with your Chaos Strikes just to give you a bit of breathing space. Just repeat the phase at this point. So long as you're I-beaming and so long as you have I-beam available, you're always doing fine. If you get some bad RNG and the souls end up inside the ice, just spend a few extra seconds there, kill a few extra bits of ice, just guarantee that you have those souls, always play it safe in this phase. If you're on low HP and you know that Razor Ice is coming, then you can actually I-beam Xylem beforehand, and the souls that you generate from the Chaos Nova you do inside the ice will usually refresh the I-beam on time to use again, and then you refresh it again with the souls from the ice itself. Another Archaean Phase, double dash to him as usual, fairly standard. You can see I haven't used my second Metamorphosis. It's pretty important that you save your big DPS cooldowns at this point. You want to make sure you go into the next phase with meta available, and you also want to make sure you don't use Fel Eruption towards the end of this phase, as you need to respec. So because the phase ends at 10%, I opt not to interrupt this. I just let him channel because I know the phase is going to end. I pop my tome for respec and I shadow meld so I can get out of combat instantly. Changing my talent to the second setup, moving my bars around, making sure everything's set up and it has it the way I like it. You can automate with this with macros if you feel like you can't get everything in place quickly enough, but I was pretty good at clicking, so did all that manually. So in this phase, as soon as you see Xylem say hold them off, that's when you want to pre-pot because the boss activates 1 second later. You're going to go all in, Old War Pots, Drums, Metamorphosis, Chaos Blades, Nemesis, everything you've got, and just nuke the absolute crap out of this guy. I'm still using my Throw Glaive because I have the bracers, however I'm trying to hold on to a stack most of the time. I'm sometimes pressing it when I shouldn't be, but the idea is to hold on to stacks for the adds. Now the adds are from this Seed of Darkness ability. When he casts this, you don't want to interrupt him, instead you want to get far away, so you spawn these adds far away. The trick is to save your Fury of the Illidari and your Throw Glaives and your I-Beam and nuke these adds. If they reach the boss, he heals, which is pretty catastrophic because this DPS is very tight in this phase. So make sure you know how far away you have to go so you can kill them comfortably. In addition, the souls they drop just help you heal up the damage. When those adds are dead, you're into your sustain phase. This is a difficult point because the boss actually melees reasonably hard. You want to just continue moving him around the room, make sure you don't take any ticks of the shadow pool he leaves behind because you really can't afford that. Be very liberal with your use of blur. You want to use it basically as soon as it's available to reduce your overall damage taken. And it's a standard DPS rotation. There's not really a whole lot you can do to improve your survivability. If you have something like Predaz, it's very useful. However, my two legendaries were the bracers and the belt. The belt's pretty useless on this fight, so yeah. Bracers, very good, belt not so much. If I had Predaz, it'd be a lot easier. Fortunately, I narrowly survive. I pop out 2 souls with my Chaos Nova, which helps a lot with the healing. And then I just want to kill these adds off. You get the greater souls from killing the adds, that provides a lot of healing to you. If you can kill all 3 of these, it's basically a fight reset and you get all of your HP back. So I continue with the standard DPS on the boss here. You can see I almost have my Nemesis and Chaos Blades back. Now I actually use these at this point, which is perhaps a mistake, because I am using Convergence of Fates as my second trinket. I don't have the shoulders, but I do have Convergence. It does mean that I get a second meta up at the very, very end of this phase, so perhaps saving those was useful, but I hadn't really got this far too often, so I wasn't entirely prepared. But bear in mind, if you have, say, 4 points in the meta reduction talent, and you have a Convergence, even without shoulders, you do get the second meta here. So again, I narrowly survive, and more adds spawn. Want to Chaos Nova them right away for the extra souls, and just keep your Throw Glaive on cooldown, I-Beam on cooldown, make sure you stun them. Use your Blade Dance, use all the AoE abilities you have at your disposal. Just make sure you're not going into the purple crap because it does a lot of damage. So this is kind of the do or die point. You can see you're pretty much out of room. I do have my meta coming back just now, so I'm going all out here. I know that I pretty much just use everything else that's available to me. If he spawns adds again, I'm screwed anyway, so I'm just keeping my Throw Blade on cooldown. I'm moving him into the slightly small gap that's left over, and you can see it's getting very, very dicey here. And you just want to everything you've got, blow him up as much as possible. I even use my healing potion here. You can see I'm basically 1 tick away from dead, but I managed to kill the boss just in time. An extra 1 second, I would have been done there. So I only actually have about 900 item level, and I have very, very badly optimized gear. So you definitely don't need amazing stuff to do this. You just need a little bit of concentration in phase 1, and then you need lots of consumables and bursting for phase 2. If you have the bracers, they are very, very good in this fight. A lot of people say Rabadons is necessary for phase 1, but I really don't agree. I think if you're just careful with the amount of souls you generate, you can do it with that method instead. So thanks for watching this rather long-winded guide to Xylem. Hopefully it helps you out. Hopefully you can beat him using some of the tips provided. And good luck, and see you next time.